Mr. Nichols, I'd like to start with Mexico. I am increasingly concerned that the Mexican government is engaged in a systematic campaign to undermine American companies, and especially American energy companies, that have invested in our shared prosperity and in the future of the Mexican people and economy. Over the past 5 months, Mexican regulators have shut down 3 privately owned fuel storage terminals. Among those, they shut down a fuel terminal in Tuxpan, which is run by an American company based in Texas, and which transports fuel on ships owned by American companies. This is a pattern of sustained discrimination against American companies. And I worry that the Mexican government's ultimate aim is to roll back the country's historic 2013 energy sector liberalization reforms in favor of Mexico's mismanaged and failing state-owned energy companies. The only way the Mexican government is going to slow and reverse their campaign is if the United States government conveys clearly and candidly that their efforts pose a serious threat to our relationship and to our shared economic interests. I hope that the Biden administration is willing to do that, and I want to ask you some questions about that specifically. What leverage do you believe the United States government has, and what leverage should we use to secure a course correction in Mexico's behavior?
So we have an incredibly complex and rich relationship with Mexico. We have a structure for that relationship under the USMCA, and the integration of our energy markets in North America and our supply chains in North America is critical. We're Mexico's largest trading partner, and thousands and thousands of Americans and Mexicans cross the border every day as part of that relationship.
How concerned are you about the Mexican government's behavior, and in particular their targeting of American companies?
I don't believe that the Mexican government is targeting American companies. I think the other point that you made about consolidating the energy sector in public hands rather than private hands is more the issue.
So you believe they're targeting just all private energy companies, Mexican and American?
Yes.
Yeah. And is that a good thing for America? Is that a good thing for Mexico?
I believe that we need to talk in a comprehensive way with our Mexican partners about the importance of energy security and how the private sector is vital to maintaining energy security.
Let me try again, Mr. Nichols. In your judgment, would Mexico destroying the private energy sector in Mexico and nationalizing or throwing out American companies and moving everything to the corrupt and failing state-owned energy companies, would that be a good thing for Mexico, and would that be a good thing for America?
It's important that we talk to Mexico about a future of reliable energy, a future where our energy markets can remain integrated, where the private sector plays a leading role, particularly in working together to achieve
I have to say, Mr. Nichols, that your answer is discouraging, because if you're not willing to tell me candidly that Mexico nationalizing energy and targeting American companies is a bad thing, then I have even less confident that you're willing to convey that to Mexico. Let me shift to another country, Colombia. This morning, the Biden administration removed the FARC, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, from the list of foreign terrorist organizations. The FARC is an organization of Marxist-Leninist narco-terrorists. For decades, they have killed, they've kidnapped, they've extorted Colombians. They have murdered and seized American citizens. They continue to pose an acute threat to Colombian security and to American interest across the region. This is sadly a part of a pattern of Biden foreign policy when it comes to dealing with terrorists, and it is a pattern of appeasement and weakness towards terrorists. It's a pattern we've seen with the Taliban and the absolute disaster in Afghanistan. It's a pattern we've seen with the Houthis in Yemen, where again the Biden administration lifted sanctions on them, and it's a pattern that has led to disaster. given that appeasement didn't work with the Houthis in Yemen, given that it didn't work with the Taliban in Afghanistan, why does the administration believe that weakness and appeasement and delisting the FARC as terrorists will produce anything but terrible results in Colombia? What makes you think weakness towards these terrorists is going to be successful?
Thank you, Senator. The administration is focused on the current terror threat. We designated the FARC-EP and the Segunda Marquetalia, the two active elements that are carrying out terrorist attacks. We continue to have a $10 million reward for alias Ivan Marquez, the head of the Segunda Marquetalia. We are focusing on supporting the peace process 5 years in, and those elements of the
Okay,
prior
final
FARC
question, because my time has expired. If and when the FARC responds to being delisted with more violence and more terrorism, will you commit to coming before this committee and admitting that it was a mistake to pretend they weren't terrorists and it was a mistake for President Biden to delist them today?
I'm always available to appear before this committee.